Yoga Teacher Killer, the Kaitlin Armstrong Story, is another riveting true story brought to you by Lifetime Television. Based on true events and ripped from the headlines, Lifetime's Yoga Teacher Killer focuses around a deadly love triangle that made headlines in 2022. That's when Kaitlin Armstrong, a Bali-trained yoga instructor, snuck into the home of her rival Moriah Wilson and ended her in a jealous rage. And it was all over this guy, pro cyclist Colin Strickland. Detectives say the victim, fellow cyclist Moriah Wilson, had a romantic relationship with Colin, Kaitlin Armstrong's live-in lover. According to court records, Kaitlin Armstrong used a fitness app to track down her rival's home address. Lifetime TV's Yoga Teacher Killer, the Kaitlin Armstrong Story, stars Caity Lotz and Larissa. This review and recap contains spoilers. Now, Yoga Teacher Killer, the Kaitlin Armstrong Story on Lifetime does deviate a bit from some of the true facts of the true crime case. They've changed some of the names, they've changed some of the events and the order of events, and some of the characters, and even some of the businesses are different. The first scene opens with the murder of Moriah Wilson, and it is chilling. We can't see the killer's face exactly, but it appears to be a woman. Quickly, the scene switches to Kaitlin Armstrong, who is teaching yoga and meditation. Kaitlin is a no-nonsense teacher who takes her spiritual work seriously, and she expects for her female students to do the same.
Now close your eyes. Close your eyes. I'm not going to continue until you close your eyes.
Now, this isn't an ordinary exercise class. Kaitlin is a feminist. She wants her students to know their worth and not to depend on men to define who they are. So she helps her students to transform their minds and learn to drift and shift into a new consciousness. In the next scene, Kaitlin starts her morning off in the throes of passion with her beloved beau, Colin Strickland. This seems like a loving relationship. It seems solid to the Lifetime viewer, but looks can be deceiving. Colin Strickland's finances are not stable. He receives money through sponsorship offers, and he often has to wait for this money to come in, which means Kaitlin Armstrong, his lover and his business partner, has to be the one to take up the slack in the movie. In the next few scenes of Yoga Teacher Killer, the Kaitlin Armstrong Story on Lifetime, Colin tells Kaitlin about an online app. It's a GPS app that helps grovel racers find each other. Kaitlin later downloads the app and finds it very interesting because this is a new way for her to keep up with Colin, her man. Now, it seems as though Colin doesn't really understand how insensitive he is. He doesn't understand how jealous Kaitlin can be, or he's not picking up on the red flags. And they both seem to be ignoring the red flags. Kaitlin seems unhappy most of the time, and she's stressed. She's happy when he's around if he's giving her the attention, but when he leaves, she seems very, very sad. And there's a part in the movie where her sister calls just at the right time during one of Kaitlin's breakdowns. And we as the Lifetime movie viewer can sense that her sister knows something we don't know yet. What she knows is how fragile her sister is mentally.
Are you okay?
Now back to Kaitlin's relationship with Colin. Kaitlin's friend Alex is picking up on some clues. It doesn't seem like Colin is the right man for her. He doesn't seem to be into her. He seems to be very comfortable using her money. I mean, what man is comfortable with his woman footing the bill? Later in the movie, a new woman comes into the equation, and her name is Moriah. And it's the first time Colin lays eyes on this fellow female gravel racer. When he sees her for the first time, there is immediate interest. Meanwhile, Caitlin's world is falling apart. She knows something is wrong. Okay, her intuition is kicking in and it's telling her something is off with Colin. She's still teaching yoga classes, but she's not doing a great job at it. It's supposed to be relaxing for her students, but Kaitlin is too tough and it's a bit off-putting.
Your background is in finance, so maybe you're bringing too much of that energy here. Next time, try and be nurturing.
Now, in the movie version of the story, Kaitlin Armstrong is always serious about her business and her money. During her birthday, Kaitlin attends a teacher training while Colin is in a pub getting to know the new woman, a woman 10 years younger. Moriah is 10 years younger than Kaitlin. And they have a lot in common. Colin has a background in engineering and Moriah has studied engineering. And he likes the way Moriah talks to him. I mean, of course, when he's talking to Kaitlin, the situation is always stressful. It's always over money. But Moriah brings a fresh perspective to him. She's encouraging. And he finds that very attractive. Now, the way I see it, Kaitlin has emotional issues anyway. And the spirituality and the yoga and the meditation helps her through it, seemingly. But the problem that she's having has everything to do with how Colin makes her feel. At this point, he is affecting her so much mentally.
I love you.
You too.
She keeps humiliating herself by telling people that Colin completes her because he's out with another woman and treating that woman more like a girlfriend than he treats Kaitlin. Now, throughout Yoga Teacher Killer, the Kaitlin Armstrong story on Lifetime, we see a woman who is very manipulative, Kaitlin. Even before she commits the heinous act, she's already showing red flags that Colin should be picking up on. But I guess he doesn't really understand her true character. He doesn't know. He definitely doesn't know who he's playing with.
I think we both know that won't happen. Or we can just stay living together like this.
As what, as friends?
Yeah.
Colin's feelings for Kaitlin become more clear after his date with Moriah. He knows that he isn't the one for her. He tells her this. I mean, he's very clear. He's not ready for a serious relationship with her. I mean, it's obvious he's not in love with her, and she isn't accepting that. I mean, the highlight of Caitlin's day is coming home to him. And he doesn't feel the same way. Now, Kaitlin is distraught over the relationship ending. She goes into her manipulative ways by hitting herself against the wall. And she's crying and she's distraught. And she's telling a friend about what's happened. And the friend notices the bruises on her and believes that Colin is doing it. But really, Kaitlin is doing this to herself. Again, this is her way of controlling the narrative. Meanwhile, Colin tells his friends he wants out of this relationship. He doesn't want to be with her. He wants to leave, but he can't. He's stuck because financially he cannot afford to move. Now, Colin seems to be talking to everybody about his failing relationship. And Kaitlin finds this out by looking at his emails. He doesn't take her feelings into account. He doesn't answer her calls when she's out either. So she makes him feel guilty by making up stories that something happened to her. She was robbed. She was watched. She has all kinds of stories. And this is sort of her way of controlling him because she wants him to come home. So Colin is back at the house, but the relationship isn't on track. 10 days later, Kaitlin is not herself at work, and her students can feel the tension and the negative energy. And her boss tells her, you need to take a break. You need to get yourself together because you're not, the students aren't feeling the warmth.
I'm not firing you, okay? I think you need to take some time.
I would be very careful about firing someone in distress.
Whoa. So that's the first time Caitlin's boss realizes this isn't just a woman with a few cracks in her personality. There is a much bigger mental issue here. And this woman is dangerous. Kaitlin then starts to fix herself. She tries to, she feels like she needs to look younger because, as I said before, Moriah is 25 and Kaitlin is 35. So Kaitlin is feeling like she needs to look younger because maybe he likes younger women. She tries to fix herself up by going to get Botox, but she doesn't pay for it. She skips out on the payment and ends up having a warrant issued against her for her arrest. Back at home, Kaitlin convinces Colin to work on the relationship. She continues on and she, begs him to stay, and he does. Now, mind you, Kaitlin has no idea he's been seeing another woman, because that is going to change the entire dynamic of their relationship, and it's going to shift them into a dangerous place. And he tells Moriah, but Moriah is confused. She's already invested in the relationship with him, and Colin is playing both of them. He is not going to stop seeing Moriah. In the next few scenes, Kaitlin and Colin are doing things as a couple. They are going to G-range classes because she wants to know how to hit her target. I hope you understand what I'm saying because I don't want to say that word. But they are going to G-range classes because she wants to learn how to hit her target. And Kaitlin is so happy and proud of Colin on another occasion when he wins yet another race. Now, while they are at that race, the other woman is still in the background. Kaitlin sees a girl lurking and watching them, but she doesn't have any idea who the woman is. The woman is Moriah. Kaitlin is going to find out the truth. At a gathering with all of their friends, they're back together and everything seems to be on track. Until Kaitlin finds out from one of Colin's friends that he's been seeing another woman, that during their little breakup, he started dating a woman named Moriah. Kaitlin is livid. She is shocked. She is sick about it. So she starts looking this woman up and she studies her. And it's the same woman who was watching her in the crowd. So she is very angry. And Kaitlin tells her friend. She confides in her friend about this, and she tells her friend that she could just kill Moriah. Now, in the movie Yoga Teacher Killer, the Kaitlin Armstrong Story, Moriah keeps texting him. Now, remember, in the movie, he's telling her that he is going back to his ex, and he's working on that relationship, and he supposedly ends the relationship with Moriah. But in the movie, she's texting him and asking, are we just going to be friends? Are we still, what are we doing? I just feel like women have to protect themselves more in situations like this. They really have to, because you never know who you're dealing with, and you never know someone's level of crazy. And I hate to put it that way, but that's what it is. And so back to the movie. When Kaitlin finds this out, she confronts him. She confronts him, and she senses that the relationship with Moriah was serious, because remember, in the movie, Kaitlin tried to date someone too. She tried to go out, but it just wasn't working. She wasn't into it. She wasn't feeling it because she wanted him. When she comes to him with this and she confronts him, Colin just makes her feel crazy. And then he gaslights her more by asking her, did you look through my messages? He's telling her, you shouldn't be looking through my messages, or why did you look through my messages? And he's addressing that instead of addressing the fact that he was dating someone else. And, he basically brushes it off and tells Kaitlin that the relationship is over. He kind of gives the indication that it wasn't that serious and that he only sees Moriah now for work stuff. But he knows this isn't true. He knows it. He's still sneaking around. He's still texting. He's still seeing her on the side. And that's why he doesn't want Kaitlin in the phone, because he doesn't want his secrets revealed. He wants to be able to play with Moriah and Kaitlin, but this is going to come back, and it is going to have a very, very dangerous and negative and deadly twist that he did not expect. Kaitlin calls Moriah and threatens her. She tells her to back off, that she would make her regret it if she didn't. Now, this was a warning. Unfortunately, Moriah meets with him again. And this time in the movie, she's tracking them. Colin and Moriah meet up. And at this point, it looks like she's meeting up to tell him that she's been threatened. I think meeting up with him that last time and being tracked by her really, really put her in a dangerous situation. And Colin was shocked. In the movie, Moriah tells him, you don't love her. I feel sorry for her because you're playing with her. You don't love her at all. And then he admitted that he kind of felt sorry for her too. So Kaitlin tracks them and sees that Colin is still meeting up with her. And then she puts her plan in motion. Now remember, Kaitlin is a master manipulator. First, she stages a fake break-in at her home. She destroys the place. She trashes it. And then using the app that he gave her, that he told her about, she tracks Moriah's location, sneaks into her home, and ends her life. When you guys see that scene, I think that scene toward the end of the movie is so chilling. She literally stands over her. And I think when a person stands over you, and that is so cold, it is so bold, it is so deliberate. Now, I've told you a lot, and I guess I shouldn't tell you everything. I should leave something for you to see in the movie. But I do want to say this. At the end of the movie, Colin feels immense sadness and guilt over what has happened. There is a part in the movie that really struck me when he really realizes that she did this. He feels like she hasn't been telling the truth, and he's asking her questions, and she isn't answering the questions the right way. So at this point, it's like he thought he knew her, but he didn't. And when he realizes that she is the killer, it just breaks him. I thought it was interesting in the movie that his friend, the same friend who told Kaitlin, is the same person who no longer wanted to be friends with Colin. He didn't want to be friends with him anymore. He didn't want to be friends with him because he felt like, even though it wasn't his fault, and at that moment, it seemed like Colin really needed him. He really needed a friend. But his friend didn't want anything else to do with him, because even though he knew Colin didn't do it and Colin wasn't guilty, he told him straight up, you had a hand in this. You set things in motion. And I mean, he sort of did. It's not his fault technically, but he did. He is going to have to live with that. And I'm sure he didn't mean for things to turn out that way. And that is a crushing blow for some young man that young, even though he made a terrible mistake playing around like he did. But I know that he didn't mean for it to turn out like that. And for him to have that now on his shoulders for the rest of his life, is going to be a lot. And I did feel compassion for him about that as well. Kaitlin goes on the run, leading authorities on an international manhunt. Now, by the time they find her, she has drastically changed her appearance. Her nose is different. She's had a nose job. She changed her hair. She doesn't look the same. She is, they catch her while she's living in a hostel in Costa Rica. And She is finally captured while she's teaching yoga classes. Now, if you want the real story on this, because I'm not going to go into the real story, but you can find, there is a 48 hours episode that is online, and it is very good. It tells you how the investigators, the real investigators, found her, and how they placed this ad, and how they tricked her into, responding to this English ad for a yoga teacher. And then one of the real investigators talks about how he recognized her by her eyes, that she had changed her appearance so much. They thought it was her, but they didn't really know if it was her. So one of them had to go up to her and to look into her eyes. And that's how he knew. He could tell by her eyes. Listen, this story was really, it was something. At the end of the movie, they state that Kaitlin Armstrong was given 90 years in prison. Now, her story doesn't end there. While incarcerated, she tries to escape during a doctor's visit. And she almost escaped. And she almost got away with this crime, too. Yoga Teacher Killer, the Kaitlin Armstrong Story, airs Saturday, June 15th at 8/7 Central on Lifetime.